Good morning and welcome along to the West Yorkshire Football Show here for Leeds United. Latest with myself, Stephen Brown, also Jason Booker caught me out there, didn't it? I'm just too giddy here. I'm too giddy because look what I've got. Look what I've got. Come on.
Honestly, you're modelling it much better than I would. You're looking in
I expected you to have it on as well, to be honest. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Jay's got it on as well.
I didn't have time to go out and get it yesterday, but I'm hoping maybe over the weekend. It's my birthday tomorrow, so I was kind of just keeping it quiet in the hope that somebody might just get me it tomorrow.
Good shout.
At least I doubt it, but yeah, we'll see.
Any generous listeners or watchers out there?
Yeah. Get JB on. JB might get me it.
Well, I was saying to you before, I nipped to the White Rose just before, and there was one guy working on the till and there was just a massive queue. The demand for this shirt, I think, is through the roof. I heard a figure, I think Jay mentioned, I heard something about 100,000. I mean, it's just going to absolutely pop off. I mean, just a quick word on it, Jay. I mean, again, it feels like every season now we're getting an absolute classic of a shirt. It feels like, when you watch or you look back at some of the shirts we had a few years ago and you compare to this stuff that we're getting now. We've got the promotion from Adidas as well. We're going up into top tier. It just all feels like it's heading in the right direction. The kit kind of symbolises that.
Yeah, I just quickly, I saw a friend had put a story on of buying them all for the family, and she spent 380 quid on fella kids. But joking aside, it is a symbol, isn't it? It does mean a lot, and when they don't just slap out another replica and it's not lazy, it feels part of what we're all about. And I know we've got a lot to talk about today. Ethan, we're going to talk about Parag, we're going to talk about, and the club just feels like it's just trending upwards time after time. And this is, from a fan perspective, it's a huge symbol of where we're at and what we're about, and to have what we want as far as the shirts go, because we're a simple bunch. You know what I mean? Like, we love as football club, and a shirt is our kind of statement piece to say this is what we're about. And when you can turn up in something that we love as much as something like this, I think it means more than people really can recognise. We were talking before we came on about the Smiley shirt, and that kind of boom that hit with that, and they were listening, they got it. And I think over the last few years, the shirts they've been spot on, home, away. I've got to say, and I said this on a video that I put out the other day, I've fallen in love a little bit with the Red Bull sponsorship. I like it. It makes that
lift it. Yeah, it looks good, especially when you blend it in with the away top. Yeah,
it's smart. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Indeed. Gav, welcome along, mate. Ilkley Moore, now famous. Yeah. If you watch along, please do smash a like on the video, get subscribed, get your comments in as well. Yeah, we should say, the promo stuff around the shirt release, it's just top tier. A couple of the boys, Lucas Radaby up there, Ilkley Moore, Stack in his flat cap, Aronson, Gary Matt ringing him, asking him, if he's in the new jersey. Top tier stuff we could never have dreamed about doing from a marketing kind of point of view before.
It reminded me of when EA have the big release of FIFA. That's what it made me feel like the promo. I loved the passing of the brew to the chief with the chief on the side of the cup. Like I said, we're simple. We're very, very simple, and them nostalgic kind of tugs that it pulls on. Yeah. It just fills you, man. It really does. It fills you. It makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Oh, with Calvert-Lewin, when he passes that cup to Radaby, I was like, I'm so chuffed at that. And we've got such a huge kind of backlog and historic kind of aspect to our club. There's so much you can tap into. And it's felt almost like, especially when, the dark days, relegations and everything, it felt like almost two separate Leeds Uniteds. You had the past, and then you just had this kind of difficult period we were going through, and it was kind of almost like a disconnect. And it feels now the good times have started to kind of come back over the last kind of several years, that everything's kind of getting reintegrated, and you're seeing these older legends of the club blending in with the newbies, and it's just a great feeling.
Skipping over a couple of pages at once here, and this might be a bit of a glazing episode today, but the 49ers have just nailed it. They've got it. They understand it. They understand what we're about. They understand what we kind of want and the way that we feel. They understand the importance of the fan base as well. It's not just a voice note. You know, owners say things like that all the time. Oh, you're the best fans in the world and the importance of the fans and that. They actually show it. You know. So yeah, they've nailed it, mate. I mean, the marketing team that put that promo together, they must be gassed.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean. Like watching the reception that it's had and the feedback that it's getting. Yeah, they must be absolutely buzzing.
Well, how hard is it these days? Oh, I think I'm getting a feedback on your end, Jay. I don't know if I was double reversed. How hard is it these days when you drop something on social media for it to be kind of universally loved and well responded to? I mean, that's a rare feat in of itself, but that's what a football club, when it's doing well and when you put out quality content, can achieve. And yeah, I mean, the reception to it, like you say, they must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah. No. Bravo.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for the club there. And you know, what a massive day it was yesterday. I mean, you had the kit dropped early doors, and then we heard from Parag Marathi, who was doing the media rounds, and he dropped probably, well, it kicks our summer off in spectacular fashion. That is Ethan Ampadu signing a brand new 4-year contract. We were all wondering and waiting, silly rumours starting to pop up, you know, as they're going to do. Journalists and hacks are going to get hold of that kind of thing and try and feed information, and who knows what's going on in the background. But signed, sealed, delivered. Parag was able to confirm that a new contract's there. Now it's all official. Ethan's done his interview. Just how massive is it that he has extended his stay at Leeds United?
I think it's absolutely vital, mate. I mean, there's so many different facets of how you can look at this in terms of why it's important. First off, on the pitch, you know, he's vital for us on the pitch. I think he could play for any team in the division. Yeah. I was thinking about it yesterday. I think the only team, I said yesterday that the only teams he don't get into is Arsenal and Man City. And when I thought about it again, I actually think he'd play for Man City. I actually think he would. I think he'd be developed into a top player there as well. I think he'd probably struggle with the numbers that Arsenal have got in that area of the pitch. But them aside, I think he's good enough to play for anyone. And I think that's why it was no surprise that Manchester United had registered interest and Aston Villa had registered interest. And they're the two best teams in the division outside of Arsenal and Man City. So there's some credence to what I'm saying. And for us to be able to then pin him down is absolutely massive from the perspective of on the pitch. Off the pitch, I think from the second that he walked in through the door, you could tell that he were about it. You know, he understood the club. He were able to put some roots down. He had such a level of experience for somebody that when we signed him, we were only 22, 23. It was ridiculous, really. And he were perfect captain material. You know, Coops was still the captain at the time, but Ethan was clearly going to be the man to take over that when he wasn't playing. And he's just grown from strength to strength. Every interview that you see or like behind the scenes stuff, I'm more talking, you see Ethan Ampadu, he's bringing people together. He's the leader within that changing room. You can see the influence that he has on new players coming to the club. I just think he's mint. He's just brilliant. There's no better word. He's just all around perfect. Like I said, he's such a great influence on the pitch as well. This is not just, you know, you could maybe put that at the door of Liam Cooper. You know, Liam Cooper was a great leader, but he had deficiencies on the pitch. You know, we can all say that over the years. He was still a great player, but he had deficiencies on the pitch. Ethan's integral on the pitch, but then got it all off as well. And from a standpoint of what it says to the rest of this transfer window, you know, there's no questions for potential incoming players about what's happening with their captain, what's happening with one of their most important players, because they all talk and they all hear it and the news gathers fast. If we were having a potential new signing coming in and Ethan had not signed a new contract yet, they'd want to know why.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, this is the thing as well, as, you know, I go back to, you know, Calvin Phillips and when he left to go to Man City, and he got an idea, and obviously agent talk, Pep would have, influenced it and everything like that. But once a player gets an idea about going somewhere, it's not out of the realms of possibility that, like you said, those suitors you've mentioned, that his agent was getting phone calls round the clock going, look, we would love to take Ethan. We would love to. So how, but for the player to commit and say, no, I'm going to be, because he knows as soon as unless there's a release clause, I don't think there will be at Premier League level, but, unless, a huge fee, he knows he's tied down now till he's, 29, 30 at the football club, unless, a huge fee comes in and changes everything. He knows he's committing to Leeds United for the next few years. And it just feels like one of those building blocks, Jay, that is, you're kind of almost like at the beck and call of what the player decides a little bit, because if he got it in his head that he wanted to leave this summer, he was in a powerful position.
Yeah.
He was in a really strong position with an expiring contract. He's had a great season. He's got the double awards. I mean, his stock it couldn't be any higher for where he is at the moment. But he's choosing, to stay, because I think he recognises, and, he's talked about his captain. He's built a situation here. He's the shining light of this club. And it's not to be sniffed at. It's not to be walked away easily. A lot of comparisons flying around with John McGinn at Aston Villa and how he stayed at Aston Villa and, he's lifting trophies now, and he's stayed with the club and he's built up. And I think there's something to that. I know, we accuse players of being mercenaries, and look, us in our normal lives, if someone comes along and waves a big fat wad of cash in your hand to do your job elsewhere, 9 times out of 10 you're going to take it. But I think with football, there's still that opportunity for emotion, connection, your situation. You've just got, look, you could never say Calvin Phillips' move went wrong. He played at Man City under Pep with the best players. He's got medals, coming out of his ears for that season. But you look at his whole career now, and it's declined. It's declined from leaving Leeds United, and some people consider it a bit of a joke. What's happened. So I think Ethan's made absolutely the right decision. I think you bang on about the club have got to match that trajectory as well. You've got to be able to convince players to join and to stay. It's really difficult, but yeah, it just feels like everything's on that upward trajectory.
Ethan's made the right decision because the foundations are in the right place.
Yeah.
When Calvin left, and I actually think more prominently when Rafinha left, because Rafinha was due to sign a new contract the January before. Yeah. Things went sour with he clearly got the vibe and the feeling that this wasn't a project that he believed in anymore. And I understand it, Bielsa had gone, and nobody can blame Rafinha for then wanting to go to Barcelona when he did. Yeah. Ethan's a very intelligent lad. And not only that, he's also been brought up in and around football. He knows what it's like. His dad's, still high level in the game. He played to a very high level as well. He will have all the best advice that he can possibly have. And if Ethan had any inkling that Leeds United were not going to go in the direction that he wanted to go in, he would be going this summer. I feel absolutely certain, because Leeds, like you say, he would hold all the cards, and Leeds United would feel like they had no choice but to sell him. He's at the peak of his value, because all that's going to happen with his value because of his contract situation is it's going to go down over the next 12 months, 24 months, if then you take the option to extend it, right? So for me, it's such a great feeling to know that this is the way that the feeling that the players are feeling that the club is operating in this way. It's a project that they are fully behind and they feel part of, and they feel like they can not only just be part of now, but they're going to grow into as well. Like you say, Ethan is going to take him to probably a little bit past his prime, right? Like I don't know what you kind of class as prime nowadays, but let's just say it's 27. His contract takes him to 29, 30. Once you get to 29, 30, clubs are starting to think, well, we've got no resale value on this player, so they start to stop taking opportunities. I think it's just such a statement piece, mate. It's a massive, massive move for so many reasons. But like I say, all the ones that we've mentioned as well. And yeah, I'm absolutely delighted, and I hope he's being handsomely rewarded. I'm sure that he will be. I got no problem with footballers earning the money.
No,
I really don't. I think more power to you, and more power to him doing it for our club if they deserve it, and he deserves it.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely agree with that. And I think it's been a very promising week for Leeds United generally. I mean, it kind of for me it started with Berran's piece in the Athletic, where it was talking about transfer plans and the fact that, because obviously we've said it as well, it's like going to have to be prepared maybe to let someone go that we don't really want to see walk out the door. Now, the situation, according to Berran and people inside the club, etc., is there's a kitty there. We don't want to lose our best players, and there's fringe players we're looking to move on. And if we can move them on, add that into the kitty, and like Parag says yesterday, we can add quality. It's not going to be about quantity this summer; it's quality, and we can just improve. I mean, and I thought, oh, that's music to my ears, because I was kind of mentally preparing myself for Stack to go, or Ampadu, or someone. And look, it's a long old transfer window. A lot could happen, between now and the start of the season. But I just feel like by staying up, we've just given ourselves such a brilliant chance of building on this.
Yeah, no, we have. I mean, I still think that we'll see a shock sale of some descript. I was thinking about it yesterday. Pascal, I think there's a fair chance, especially if the contract's not coming. I think the 49ers will act, and then you'll see replacements coming there. I was thinking about it. Jayden Bogle might be somebody that we see. 5 million came in. Could you fetch nearly 20 million for Jayden? Maybe. He still had a pretty impressive Premier League season last season. We've got James Justin. We could look to replace with somebody a little bit younger. So, you might have a potential there. You have still got fringe players that could fetch in a little bit as well. But the problem with selling too many fringe players is you then have to replace them fringe players. So you get caught into a bit of a conveyor belt situation. But there'll be a little bit of that. I think Tanaka, I'll have suitors as well. And I think that Farker and the club will maybe look at him and think we might be able to move him on and replace with better. Again, from a SCR, whatever it's called now, perspective, it could be beneficial. So I still think there'll be one or two within the group. But I think you're right. I get the gut feeling that our very best players, Anton Stack, Ethan Ampadu, as a particular two that kind of stand out. Dominic Calvert-Lewin I'd put into that category as well. I think they'll be absolutely fine for this year. I think they'll be absolutely fine. And as long as we continue to progress in the way that we are, and like we said, the trajectory keeps going that way, I think that's more prominent for Anton Stack now. In 12 months' time, I would like to believe that the project looks like we can take Anton Stack into Europe the year after, and that satisfies him. You know what I mean? Maybe he gets back into the Germany squad and he's not feeling like he has to move to a Bayern Munich to get that Germany call up. These things matter to players. Of course they do. So, yeah, as long as we're going in that direction. But everything, and Parag made a great point. I thought his interview were brilliant, the one that came out yesterday. He made a great point, that record points total to not go up in season one under Daniel. Record, I think it's second highest record points in the championship in season two. Top 10, most recently promoted points total for a newly promoted side this season just gone. There can't be a fan that's got a single issue with the way that this club
is in the ground.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 32,000 waiting list for a season ticket. The club has never been in a better position, mate. In our lifetime, anyway, it hasn't. Even though we got to the Champions League semi-final and all that, we know it was built on quicksand. That's not a successful running of a club. It's not a successful ownership. This is as good as we've had it in our 35 plus years.
100% agree. Absolutely. Top Banana, welcome along, morning, mate. Yeah, it's Dreamland stuff. It's pinch me stuff, isn't it? And the Parag interviews that went round yesterday, and what I love about it as well is, I mean, this guy is a media pro, isn't he? I mean, he says all the right things. He doesn't make any slip ups. He doesn't overpromise. He just gets the tone exactly what you want from the person at the head of the organisation. There's not going to be anything that anyone can come back and get him on in 12 months' time, because he's admitted there's difficulties as well. SCR, he talks about it openly. And I like the fact that we probably won't hear from him now for another 12 months, and that's great. That's all you need. We don't need him sat on Twitter saying Adam Forshaw's, the new midfield option. We don't need him, like what the Huddersfield Town guys. We don't need crazy, we just don't need crazy. We need a guy who comes out.
We've had that.
We've had a lifetime's worth of absolute nutcases running our club, and it just been a shambles. And I love the fact that he comes out, says, right, this is the agenda, this is what we're working towards. Ambition, etc. Right, see you later, see you in 12 months, and we'll see where we're at that point. And the big kind of talking point, I guess, was Farker as well. He's talking very ambitiously. He's only got a year left on his contract. Again, I thought the way Parag talked about that was spot on. It was it's that genius way. I know Popey tried to, I think, kind of nail him down on, about supporting Farker and will he definitely be here and all this kind of stuff. But he kind of very nicely kind of skirted around it and said, because we know if we get off to a horrible start next season, we don't win in the first 6-7 games, he's gone. It can very easily blow up, absolutely. So I just thought he handled it so well. And I think I just love the whole operation of it. I think you're absolutely bang on it. There's just no criticism, the expansion of the ground, the fact that, the ticket office now is destroyed. It's kind of like, you can't believe, like, you're actually seeing your Ellen Road change. We've never had that, little modifications here and there, but real, root and stem change. It's, absolutely bonkers.
The thing that we have to be fair to with the fan side of things is that they didn't have a lot of trust when the 49ers came in. The fans knew that the 49ers were in the background of Radrazana and Orta under the previous ownership. We've had Chelino, we've had Krasner, we've had Ken Bates, GFH, like, and then obviously the ultimate in Ridsdale. We've had awful ownerships. So when the 49ers fully took over the club and Parag came out with the famous line of, I do contracts in my sleep, he was putting himself up there with a target on his back. So the first time something happened that didn't kind of fall directly in line with that and we missed out on a signing to another club or whatever, that was always going to come out. Fans were always going to use that as a stick to beat him with. But time now needs to be used as evidence for these fans that are in that, that are still maybe stuck in that mindset. I still see people in other streams calling them the fraud deniers and all that. It's mental to me. Mental. They are an unbelievable ownership. I'm extremely actually proud and happy that they are owning my football club. I remember when me and you discussed the Red Bull ownership, that first, the Red Bull connection, not ownership, sorry, the sponsor then coming on board and all the rest of it. You have to choose wisely who you put yourself into cahoots with at the top level of football or top level of sport nowadays. And in comparison to a lot of the ownerships within the Premier League, I think even Red Bull are pretty neutral. They're still pretty good, ethical even. So, and this is what the 49ers have given us, and they've given us a well-established run Premier League football club.
100%, absolutely. CB morning, slightly off topic. Is the blue on the new shirt as dark as it looks on screen? Yes, it is like a dark kind of blue. There's a certain shade that they call it. Royal dark blue or something.
Royal blue, yeah.
It's good. Dave, welcome along, Mr. Foy in the building. How are you doing, mate? But yeah, it's it's crazy to think of how it's going in terms of the summer plans. I mean, it feels like we're probably now just waiting for the next things to happen. I almost feel, Jay, with the transfer rumours and stuff, obviously it's nice to kind of speculate and everything, but the way the 49ers operate, that we're not going to hear 95% of it is not going to be on Twitter. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just going to all of a sudden be dropped.
I'm all about it, mate. I'm all about it. I mean, I don't think there's been any signings that have really been rumoured that have then come through. It tends to be the day before, maybe at best, and then it happens. Or it just happens. Calvert-Lewin, I remember, was kind of like murmured about the day before, and then it pops up. And no Rockefeller, I think that rumor kind of came back from the time before. I can't think of many. And I mean, when we dropped Gabby Goodmanson, we had no idea. James Justin came out of absolutely nowhere. Yakabio were done like that on promotion. If you remember, it were just done, wasn't it? Sean Longstaff, I don't remember any noise around that. Like, and I kind of can go through more and more and more of them. And that's how it's been. So I like it. It's the better way to do business. It keeps, it keeps the prices down, hopefully. Fans don't always like it. They want, the club to come out and say, oh, but again, when you've got a body of evidence over the last 3 years that's shown that it operates like this extremely well, I don't think you can grumble at all. And again, we've said this time and time again, there ain't that many that haven't been successful. Pretty much the body of recruitment history under the 49ers, it's an unbelievable rate of success. I'd say 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
And most clubs don't operate like that, mate. Most clubs do not operate like that at all.
No, I think there's an argument that they're underpraised, actually, the 49ers whole operation with the fan base in general. I think I get owner suspicion. All the horror stories we hear, what we've been through, I get it. But I mean, it's funny because I've been watching a bit of Everton content, just kind of, I love going around and watching fan channels when the club's in a bit of turmoil. I just love it. It's my little weird, my little weird hobby. But I've been listening to Everton fans, and it's like Moyes has basically finished the season playing mostly the players that played under Dyche. The new signings have just not worked. The majority just haven't worked, and that's how hard it is. That is how hard it is to get that right. And yet 49ers, we're looking at like 95% hit rate in the transfers.
Brian, let's put it this way, right? So, when bear in mind, we've got a great comparison with Everton here. When we signed Dominic Calvert-Lewin for free?
Yeah.
How many Leeds fans would have taken Barry at 35 million over signing Calvert-Lewin for free?
I bet all of them.
And bear in mind, Barry replaced Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
That is the direct replacement. That is exactly what happened only 12 months ago. So you just have to leave the people that are good at the jobs to do the jobs. This is why they're in the positions that they are. And like you said, previous experience, other horror stories can make you have a little bit of nerves and trepidation when you think about ownerships. But this ownership, especially from a recruitment perspective, have nailed them all. They've given you evidence that they know what they're doing. Yeah. When we saw Glenn Kamara and bought out Tanaka, that on the face of it is a massive risk. People get excited by out Tanaka because he's Japanese and it looks different. Like, that's true, right? Yeah. When we signed him, it'd have given that flavour of excitement. I remember when we signed Ideguchi. Yeah. the fans were like, oh, Japanese star, like they don't even know what he plays like. They don't even have seen him before. So, but they make proper, informed, well-educated decisions based on the information they've got in front of them. And like you said, they've nearly all worked out. Manor Solomon is another great example, I think, of one. That were a real educated gamble at 50 grand a week when we were in Championship. That's what we were paid a week. We paid all of his wages. We got there ahead of top flight teams throughout Europe. We made that signing happen, and that signing was arguably the difference between maybe not going. We'd have probably ended up finishing second without Manor Solomon. I can get on board with that argument. But he certainly helped us win the division. He certainly helped us get it over the line. The level difference between him, Ramazani, and Nonto was massive, and they made sure that happened. So, they just deserve all the credit, mate.
No, 100% agree. And look, me and Jay were hoping at some point over the weekend to do a proper squad audit and go through the players and everything, but just how key is it? And I love the fact that Parag made reference to the fact that they were there in the background when we finished strongly with Bielsa that first season in the Premier League, and then we failed to build on that. And I love that there's that honesty there that says, look, we learned those lessons. It's kind of benefiting it, isn't it? Really, we can see where look, you've got to churn the squad. You can't just kind of even if players have been loyal, even if players have done a good job for you, if they're on a downward trend, or if there's a decent enough offer, you've got to make the moves. I love the fact that he's confronting that, and hopefully we have learnt the lessons from that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like he has, and I think that was part of the reason why they didn't just take over ownership earlier. They wanted a handover process that could see them, what they needed to do right, what had been done wrong. They learned the lessons since taking over. What mistakes have they made? They really haven't. They've even got a handle on the fact that they want to do the expansion over 2 or 3 years. I really like the fact that he brought that up as a point, because that would be massive at Ellen Road. If we were to have part of the, let's just say a whole stand closed during the season, that makes a huge difference to the fans, but also the performances and the results on the pitch. Yeah. And they've understood that. I truly believe with certain clubs, they would have thought, no, balls to it. We're just going to do this over 6 months and get it done. They've not done that here. What owner? I'm assuming that will probably cost them more money to do it that way as well. I mean, what ownership would do that? Not many. So they're putting the fans first. Well, what more can you ask for as a fan base?
And regeneration to the whole area. They want to get a tram service in there. What will you think? Imagine, Jay, I want to, flash forward 2-3 seasons. What would it feel like walking into Ellen Road? 53,000. It looks different. I was trying to just imagine what that feeling will be like, what it'll actually feel like to see Ellen Road with a massive West stand. It'll just be, it'll be amazing when it happens. God knows how hard it'll be to get a ticket, but blimey, it will be incredible. And I guess the challenge is keeping that bare pit volatile atmosphere. That is crucial. And look, sometimes that can be a bit lost when you do it. But again, like you've mentioned, it feels like they're doing it in the right way. We're building on Ellen Road, slowly developing it. So hopefully we still have the intensity whilst it's being built. But it'll be an amazing moment, won't it, to step out and, being a 53,000, capacity seater stadium.
Yeah, I mean, and it's long overdue.
Yeah,
it is long overdue. The club probably wouldn't be exactly in the position that it's been over the last few years if we had a bit more of an infrastructure behind the size of the fan base. But yeah, I mean, it'll be an unbelievable moment, and it'll hopefully take us on to that next step. I think it's the only thing that really separates us from Villa and Newcastle. They're the two kind of obvious examples I think of, because I think in terms of fan base, stature, history, we're similar. But they do have bigger grounds, bigger opportunity to scale, more revenue then coming in that can be spent, so, and thankfully for both of them grounds, they've been extended on their previous kind of foundations. Neither of them have lost atmosphere and feeling. I think both of them grounds are fantastic places to go and fantastic places to play football. I don't like the away end being right up in the gods at St James's, but that is what it is. Like you can put away fans somewhere up there, can't you? When we extend Ellen Road. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that as well, because it'll be interesting to see if eventually they do go back to putting the away fans in the south stand. I know that's kind of been flirted with. I don't think they will because of season tickets and stuff. And I know the South Stand is kind of where the atmosphere is generated from nowadays and all that. But yeah, interesting. Anyway, I digress. I just think it's going to be a nice process while it happens, and then the day that we kind of step out there with it, with 50-odd thousand in there, it'll feel really, really odd.
Yeah, it will. It will be bizarre when you actually imagine what it'll be like. It does seem strange. It just very quickly, and because we want to get onto some transfer rumours, but when you look at Villa, Newcastle, Palace winning trophies, I think if we continue this kind of upward trajectory and we keep building, I think we have a trophy in the cabinet within 5 years. I really feel. I almost feel as well, now that we've played at Wembley a couple of times with this in this era, I feel like the next time we go there, we win as well. I really feel that. I could just be high on the last couple of days when I'm saying all this, but I don't know. I just feel like you're almost seeing these kind of secondary clubs, or the clubs that have, the sleeping giants, Villa, Newcastle, these type of clubs. It's almost like their time to shine, their time to get their hands on a trophy. And I feel like we're next in that queue. I really feel it.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, high on Ethan Ampadu contracts and
new shirt,
yeah, new shirt. No, I do know what you mean, though. I do know what you mean. It feels like there's a bit of a shift in the tide of football in general in this country as well. You know, we see Crystal Palace win the FA Cup last year, they win the Conference League this year, Villa win the Europa League, Arsenal in the Champions League final. We've got another new winner in the Premier League. Not a new winner, but you know what I mean? For a period of time. The landscape within football is changing. Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth all flirting and qualifying for Europe, and Villa regularly now back in the top 4. You know, we look and Newcastle were in Champions League last year. They've qualified a couple of times. Newcastle won the FA Cup the other year. Oh, the FA Cup or League Cup?
Yeah, League Cup a couple of years
League
ago.
League Cup a couple of years ago. So we're seeing all these examples of clubs that we can kind of see ourselves in if we get it right, having success. So rightly so, we should feel like that. Like we've had a long time where we've not felt anything. We were just happy to stay up in the Championship, right? So this is nice.
It was never on the agenda. I mean, winning a trophy for, you know, probably the moment we got knocked out of the UEFA Champions League semi-final, it probably felt, you know, the decline happened pretty much quickly after that. It's felt like 20 years of like, you don't even think about a trophy. You don't even think about winning a competition. Back from the Championship a couple of times, obviously.
Well, no, I was just going to mention that. Let's be fair. When we won the Championship, especially the first time, I celebrated it like as big as I could celebrate anything.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I was 2-year-old when we won the top division. I don't remember that. I remember my first football memory was losing to Villa in the League Cup final in '96. I know it gives you shudders, and you know, it's my first football memory really. Then England World Cup '98, like, you know what I mean. You have these kind of little moments. I remember the Champions League semi-final, obviously, but it's not the same. So you know, winning promotion from League One was kind of like the first thing of we won, and you don't get nothing for that.
Yeah.
Failure in playoff finals and all the rest of it. So when we won the Championship and, you know, Liam Cooper lifted the trophy at Ellen Road with no fans, unfortunately, it was a massive moment for me. Like,
amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
the semi-final this year felt huge for me. It's a semi-final of the FA Cup, Leeds. What? No, surely not.
I got to go and support my team at Wembley again this year.
Yeah.
That's a massive success for me. Whether we're in a failed attempt in a semi-final or not, my team still went and played Chelsea. You know, we weren't expected to win that game. We stood a chance. We didn't disgrace ourselves. It weren't a great performance. We get that. But at the end of the day, we were still there. And that's a huge stride away from where we were only a matter of, 6-7 years ago? It's not that long ago.
No,
so you know, if ever you take yourself back, I go down memory lane all the time, and I love watching old nostalgic goals and all the rest of it. You go and have a look at highlights from the 2015-2016 season 10 years ago, and have a look at the crowds at Ellen Road when we were playing in front of 21,000, and you go and have a look at some of them players. You go and have a look at some of the managers that we had and the ownerships and all the rest of it. You know, it's not that long ago. I say this to our Oliver all the time. You know, my son's 16. You don't remember, like, this is so good where you find it, because you don't remember just how bad it was, you know. So yeah,
it is bonkers. It is absolutely, and I think what it was at that time is you just got used to it. It was like, this is what it is supporting Leeds. Nightmare. Right, just before we finish up, we're going to get to some transfer rumours or just some players that I just want to get Jay's take on how they would fit at Leeds and what he thinks of them. Let's start with Tammy Abrahams. This is a name that's been bandied around. So he's kind of floating about, obviously on loan at Villa. Physical striker, you know, we know about Tammy. I mean, what's your take on Tammy Abrahams as a player? Could you see that a good foil for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, someone to challenge him for that starting place, someone of a higher quality than Metcher to kind of come in? What's your feelings on that?
It's a real interesting one. There's a few things that I like and a few things that I don't like. First off, I'll just start with the things I don't like. So he's coming to Villa in January and on loan, but to sign a contract, like, it's an obligation to buy. They've now been forced into signing him and they're looking at selling. Now that worries me because he's got a history at Villa. He's liked there anyway. They obviously saw an opportunity, but then within 6 months, they've not seen him as even good enough to push Ollie Watkins. And I rate Ollie Watkins, he's an absolute class act. But how's that dynamic changed so quickly? He's got serious injury history, and we've shown that we're capable of sorting that out. So, yeah, we may not have to worry as much as other clubs, or once upon a time we did, but it's still a concern because it's a concern, right? And I worry whether he is. I think he's a better finisher than Calvert-Lewin, but I think he's got less to his game outside of putting the ball in the back of the net, which I get I understand is important, but I think everything else that Dominic Calvert-Lewin does really well, he does better than Tammy Abraham. So then I'm looking at it like, well, okay, so we're bringing in somebody that can challenge him, but do all of the things that we need really for him to do worse than our main man. When Lucas Mecha is kind of already that anyway, and less risk, you know, we've already got that kind of situation with him. I would rather see replace Joel Perreault with a different profile, somebody that can either play off Calvert-Lewin or give us something different when what Calvert-Lewin's doing isn't working. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because I think if Tammy Abraham comes off the bench for Calvert-Lewin, I think you see a lot of the same things, but not as good.
Yeah, I get you. Do you think that's what... Sorry, no, I was going to say, do you think I know Strand Larsen's kind of physical. Do you think that's why we're pursuing him, because he's maybe a better finisher than Calvert-Lewin, and you know it's something a bit different?
I think Strand Larsen's a great example. Yeah, I think he's a great example. I think Strand Larsen runs into the channels better. I think he's a bit quicker than Calvert-Lewin. He's a better finisher. He's got different things to his game than Calvert-Lewin does. And I like that. Like, that's what you need within a squad. I understand having somebody that can replicate some of what Calvert-Lewin does, because he might not be able to play every week, he might get injured, etc., etc. Like, he might not be the man that starts all the time. But I think if you're just signing a lesser version that's already got injury issues as well, I don't, especially with the price that I think it's going to end up having to be, because I reckon it's going to be around 30 to 40 million quid. And that, I don't know, it just doesn't. Unbelievably, Tammy Abraham's only 28. It seems like he's been around forever.
He's had a weird career, hasn't he? Because obviously, he came through as a Chelsea prospect. He was in the Champions League winning team, and you know all that, and then shipped off to Roma. I feel almost like he's a little bit of a victim of that kind of Chelsea, you know, youth product, kick him out kind of thing. And maybe he just needs that new home again to get going. But I agree with you. I think I'd be very uncomfortable for that kind of price tag.
He was part of the Villa team that got promoted, wasn't he, as well? He were on loan at Villa, and we played against him with Marcelo. And I mean, he were a cheat code in the Championship. Yeah. That was ridiculous. And I like him. I like a lot of what he brings, but I don't know how much sense it makes. It depends on the price again as well. Like, if you're having to then cut off something else somewhere else to make room for that, it don't make for comfortable, like a comfortable feeling for me. So I'd probably lean on the side of staying away from that one. But we definitely are going to need a new striker. We are going to need somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other names then, just to throw out, get your opinion. Someone who's had a really difficult time of it. Another Villa player, Harvey Elliott, not played much because I think Villa didn't want to trigger an obligation fee and everything like that.
Yeah.
Apparently he's been a superb professional about it, though he's been absolutely exemplary in terms of his attitude. Now, in terms of a Harvey Elliott, I mean, a loan possibly from Liverpool. I mean, what do you think there? I mean, I guess the danger is, does it end up like another Buonanotte type situation, or would he be the type of profile you'd be looking at possibly coming in this summer? So
let's just have a quick minute to talk about this loan narrative and like new player narrative with Farke, because I've seen another content creator talking about this, and I've seen it on socials as well, and I just think it's nonsense. So this like kind of idea that Daniel Farke doesn't play him, like it's rubbish. So like new signings, I mean, if that was the case, he wouldn't have integrated Jacoby All, James Justin, Gabby Goodmanson, Noah Okafor, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Anton Stark. Like, I could go on and on and on and on. Like, the team was made up of new signings. The loan signing situation, the loan signings, they fill a gap within the squad. Now, the same content creators that complain about Mano Solomon starting week in, week out over the likes of Laji Ramazani and Willie Nonto, because you're not then evolving your players that actually play for you. Complain that then the likes of Connor Roberts and Facundo Buonanotte don't get games because they're on loan, and that's Daniel Farke's fault because he's not playing them because they're on loan. It's bollocks. The whole notion around it is nonsense, mate. The likes of Facundo Buonanotte and not so much Connor Roberts, Jed Spence is the other one. Jed Spence and Buonanotte, they didn't play because they didn't deserve to play. It's as simple as that. Connor Roberts got injured. I think Connor Roberts got a decent amount of game time, really. He played against Leicester.
Rothwell got
great example. Again, completely gets missed because it doesn't fill the narrative. Rothwell played a lot of football for Leeds United last season. And Farke doesn't have favourites. He doesn't. No. He plays the best player that he sees at the time, given the circumstances. And once he doesn't see them as being right anymore, he moves them on. Yeah. Joe Perreault started this season, played great against Everton, terrible against Arsenal. We didn't see him again after. And Joe Perreault was his baby over the 2 seasons before that. It's nonsense. So, this narrative that we might as well not sign a loan player because he won't play anywhere, it's rubbish. If the player is right for the team, he will play. And Harvey Elliott, coming back now, sorry, full circle, and I'll waffle from it there, but I had to get that off my chest because it's been irritating me. Harvey Elliott, I think, would be a fantastic signing for Leeds United. I think he can fill in several holes. I think he gives us Brendan Aronson, but with more quality. I don't know whether he's be quite as good at the press, but I think you're going to struggle to get anybody that's quite as good at defensive work in an attacking half as Brendan Aronson. So you might have to kind of negate some of that with more work from the likes of Anton Stack and Ethan Ampadu. But Harvey Elliott would bring us that extra bit of quality. And if we could get him at the right time, loan with an obligation, I don't think there'll be any loan with an option with this year. If they're going to let him go out again, I think there'll be some sort of obligation. They tried to sneak it in on Villa this year, and that's why he's ended up having such a bad season, because they made a decision that they didn't want to have to kind of commit to that obligation. So, I'd be down for that one, mate. I think he'd fill a lot of our issues, can play out wide if we kind of mould the system. He can play inside, he can play as one of the three, he can play as a 10. I really like it as a signing, really like it. And he's still great age, great profile, and it'd be good to see him kind of get some base down. Funnily enough, we've kind of got a circle with Harvey Elliott, haven't we? Because his career took a bit of a negative trajectory after the Pascal Struijk tackle that then had him, gave him that really bad injury, which it wasn't a bad tackle as it happened. It was just one of them unfortunate ones. But I'd love that one. I'd love that one.
Michael saying here, Liverpool quoted a figure of 35 million for Elliott to Aston Villa. Now Elliott's quotation is around 25 million, and
I don't think that's a bad price, mate. I think it's pretty going rate. For me, if you have a loan deal with an obligation to pay 25 million in a year's time, I'd be all right with that.
Just a quick one from Skip. Thanks for your comment. For me, Daniel Farke deserves a new deal, but do you think the 49ers are hanging on to see how he does in his second year? I don't think that. I think he will get a new deal. I think, look, if you have to sack him after 6 games, it's just part of the course of it, isn't it, these days, really?
Yeah, I think there'll be a new deal before the start of the season. There's no way that they're going to let it go into another season with then the risk of him potentially leaving at the end of the year if he's had a stalker. What if he has a banger? So, I think there'll be a new contract. I just think it's a matter of time.
Some other kind of transfers. One that's persisting, Wolves defender Kretschke. Now, what's your feelings about that? We saw him, Ellen Road, get beat up by Aronson, which is quite funny. But what's your take on that one? Can you see something happening there?
It won't go away. I'm not a massive fan of his from what I've seen, but I understand he's got a big reputation. I understand that Wolves have had to sign him permanently and now are looking to sell him straight on because he was another loan obligation.
Yeah, that isn't it? Yeah, it's one of them again, isn't
it? 26 million, that feels like a lot. I think it very much depends on what happens with Pascal. He's a left-footed CDM / centre-back. I think he prefers to play CDM over centre-back, but I think he's played at centre-back a lot this season. And it might be that that's more his natural position. He's tall, he reads a game well, he's got a good distribution. I think he scored against us at Molineux right early on in the season, if I remember rightly.
Okay, right.
But he's definitely played against us in both games. He was the lad that had the header for the Caldalo save.
Yes.
In the game of the Ellen Road. So yeah, I understand the link. I would just be cautious of it. I don't see it happening if Pascal stays. If he goes, maybe it does. But there's other profiles that I would probably like. I know that we mentioned Doki before going on. I don't think he's left-footed though, Doki. And we are going to need a left footer if Pascal goes. But if not, he would be the perfect fourth centre-back. With Bornau kind of applying an all-round kind of defensive cover role again, I think would be pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who's got involved and got your comments in. Like I say, me and Jay were hoping to get back together over the weekend for a full squad audit. We can talk a little bit more on transfers there as well. Jay, you look like you're itching to.
Yeah, I just want to mention this comment very, very quickly because I know you need to go for start work. Elliott wasn't good enough for Villa. Why should Leeds sign him? Surely Buendia would be a better alternative in a creative number 10 who Leeds United have been looking. Well, first off, we wanted Buendia 18 months ago, and a lot of Leeds fans said he weren't good enough and were too injury prone and all the rest of it, and kind of turned the nose up at it. And then last year they've reintegrated him. In what world are Aston Villa going to sell one of their best players, having finished fourth in the Premier League, to Leeds United? And if he's not good enough for Villa, why should Leeds sign him? Well, that's unfortunately how the landscape of football works. They're not good enough for one of the teams that's at the top of the division at this point in his career. So he has to rebuild and step back down. I mean, if that applied, why did we sign Joe Rodon? Why did we sign Ethan Ampadu? Why did we sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin? That you could go on and on and on. So that's a mental point. Sorry, I don't have to bring it up because it confused me.
Good stuff. Well, thank you everyone who got involved, commented. Please make sure you're liking the video, get subscribed to the channel as well. I've been Sim Brown, with me as ever, Jason Booker, and we will see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.